Hey you guys, it is me, Laura, and I have someone new to introduce you to. Lily Elizabeth Joy was born on November 30, and we are so enjoying having her with us. Filming this, she is 10 days old. And I will also be inserting some pictures of Lily and the things that I'm talking about and maybe some other video clips in here as well. But I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about how Lily got here, her birth story, and just the excitingness of having her, how she's doing, how I'm doing, all that jazz. So Lily was due December 8th, and all of my babies, well, I say all of them, my two boys, both came late, and were encouraged a little bit along the way with membrane sweeps. With Samuel, they were going to schedule a medical induction because of the deterioration of his placenta. But I asked them to do a membrane sweep and give me 24 hours, and they did, and he came, and so we didn't have to do an induction, which was fantastic. With Timothy, I had a condition called Pups, and it's basically where you break out in hives, and your body has an allergic reaction to the baby, and the only way to stop the hives is to have the baby. So I was miserable, and I had my midwife appointment the day after my due date, and I said, can we please do a membrane sweep, get this baby out, I can't take it anymore. And she agreed, and we did a membrane sweep, and he was born. So that was nice and easy. So this time around, my hyperemesis has been really bad, especially compared to the last few times. And I was really struggling with dehydration, and on the 28th, actually, which was a Tuesday, I think, I was just not feeling well at all. It's very rare that I ask my husband to take off work, to like completely take off work because I'm sick or there's something going on. A lot of times I might ask him, because he works from home, so I might ask him to take a couple hours so I can take a nap or something like that, but it's very rare that I just say, you need to be off work today. And it was one of those days. I just was so dehydrated. I was feeling terrible. I was in tears most of the day, just awful. And the next day, on the 29th, I had my 38 week midwife appointment. So at this point, I was 38 weeks and 5 days pregnant. And I walked in the office. I just felt terrible. So they had already planned on giving me fluids, IV fluids at that appointment. At this point, I'd had IV fluids a few times, and we were kind of keeping them up. So I was there talking to her. Clearly, I felt awful. Before we got the appointment going, she went ahead. The midwife was trying to get an IV started on me, and the IV that they had done before for fluids, they had a hard time finding a vein because I was so dehydrated. So this time, she tried twice, and she's like, I can't get it. And so this birth center that I go to in the midwifery practice, they contract with a private EMT medical transport emergency company, so that if any emergency comes up, or if there has to be an emergency transport or anything like that, this is the company they work with. They do training specifically with them for maternity type cases. So anyway, they have a really good relationship with them. The EMTs, the paramedics, had told them if the midwives ever needed help starting an IV, to give them a call. Well, at this point, I had already had one good vein that was blown from the previous week, and it was still bad. They couldn't use it. And then she blew one vein trying to get it, and I didn't have many veins. And so she says, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and call them. So she called the EMTs, and they came. It took them 3 tries, I think. They blew one vein. They dug around and couldn't find anything somewhere else. And anyway, they finally got it. They were having a hard time. They were concerned that they wouldn't be able to find a vein either. But they finally found one, so we got the IV started, and we decided to go ahead and give me 2 liters of fluid instead of 1, because I was so ridiculously dehydrated because I couldn't drink. So anyway, we got that going, and she, well, actually, while we were waiting on the EMTs to get there, she went ahead and checked me, and we talked, because I was really struggling, guys. Like, I've never felt that horrible in my entire life. And we decided that because I was 38 weeks and 5 days, really close to the 39-week mark, if my cervix and if everything was favorable, we would go ahead and do a membrane sweep. Because the thing with the membrane sweep is if your body is not ready, it won't work. So she checked me and I was 2 to 3 centimeters dilated. I think she said, was it 80% effaced, I think? And so she felt like it was worth going ahead and doing a sweep just to see if we could get things going. So once they got that, so she did the sweep, and I was there at the office for a long time because they had to do the IV drip super slow because my veins were so restricted and tiny, and if they ran my fluids at the regular rate that they had been running it, then it would have just blown those veins, and that would have been bad. So I stayed there. See, my appointment was at 10, and I finally left after the second bag of fluids at 4:30 that day. My husband had the kids all day, and my contractions were picking up, but it was still kind of iffy. Like, am I going to go into labor, or is this going to slow down? But the thing was, at this point, we already had the IV in, and the Heplock was in, and the fear was that if we took it out and then I went into labor that night, that we wouldn't be able to get another vein. And they'd already talked about the importance of running IV fluids for me during labor, possibly, depending on my bleeding, Pitocin IV afterwards. Anyway, so we didn't want to take out the IV that I had. So what the midwife decided to do, she wrapped it super thoroughly, locked it off, and sent me home and said, basically, if you go into labor, we're good. If you don't go into labor tonight, then tomorrow come in. While it's in, we'll go ahead and give you one more bag of fluids, and then we'll take it out. So I went home, still having contractions for sure, nothing normal, but with the boys, I never really went into like regular labor, so we just weren't sure. So I went home, ate supper, spent a little time with the boys, and then it was clear that like this wasn't stopping. Like, it wasn't just going to go away. And it seemed to be picking up. But with me too, we weren't sure. I wasn't sure when to call everyone because on the one hand, I felt like I still had a ways to go. But on the other hand, once I get to a certain point, it like goes fast. And there's no way to know like when that's going to happen. And there was a concern that I was going to go quickly enough that I wouldn't make it to the birth center and they would have to come to my house. They actually sent me with a home birth kit just in case because we didn't know. So I went ahead and called, and they decided that we would meet at the birth center at 7:30. So we got someone to come and be with our boys, and we drove into the birth center. And once we got there, with everything going on, my contractions kind of stopped. And I hadn't really progressed a whole lot, so it was kind of like, what are we going to do? But I think everyone at that point felt like we really needed to get this baby out because I was just struggling so much. So my doula and my midwives, everyone just kind of left me and my husband alone. He kind of gave me some space to kind of get in the zone. And the contractions picked up a little, but not too much. So they finally brought in a breast pump to see if nipple stimulation would help. So that really kicked up the contractions actually quite a bit. And so after a while, I don't know what time it was at this point, they finally did another check, and at this point I was 5 centimeters, almost fully effaced, I think. I don't remember where I was in that process. And it was just kind of a question of what do we do here? And at this point it was clear that labor wasn't going to stop. One of the main problems that I was having was that I could not rest, though. At this point in labor, they would normally encourage a mom to rest and take advantage of the slowness so that there's energy later. But between my really horrid reflux, I had something called SPD, which basically the pelvic muscles and bones and joints and all that, it's extremely painful. I could not move even to change positions in the bed without help. I could not get comfortable, so I couldn't rest. And the concern was that because I was already so weak and so bad off from earlier, that I would not be able to do this for very long. So we talked about all the options and decided finally to go ahead and break my water. With my boys, I stalled out at 7 centimeters and they both had their water broken then. So 5 centimeters was a little earlier than I would have liked, but I felt like given the circumstances and the midwives, all three of them, because at the birth you have a student midwife. I had a student midwife, a certified professional midwife, certified nurse midwife, and a doula, and then my husband. But they all felt like it made sense just to go ahead at this point and break my water. So they did that, and my contractions really picked up. It got really, really intense, really, really fast. But I was struggling with them because I could not move. We were trying to get, my cervix was pointed in a weird position, and we were trying to, by me moving and changing positions, get that to point where it was supposed to go, but I could not move. It took my husband and my doula most of the time even just to roll me over and to get from place to place. And I'd already spent a little bit of time in the tub. I like laboring, doing early labor in water because it's soothing, but I've never ever wanted a water birth. That's not something that I had planned. That's not something that I was interested in. And it's not something that I wanted to do. The thought of it was just kind of gross to me in general. But I realized that the only way that I was going to be able to move at all was if I was in the water. So just train the tub. I felt so bad. And so I said, I've got to get over there. And it took me forever to get from the bed to the tub just because it was so hard for me to move. So I finally got there, and then I was able to move with the contractions and position myself how I needed to be positioned. And it was still, I mean, I was in labor, it was still very painful, but it was so much better. I had an IV at this point, so they had to put a glove on my hand and tape it up real good so that I didn't get any of that wet, but they did a great job. In fact, I have a picture, I'll post in here, with my emesis bag because I was about to throw up, and my IV on, and I'm in the tub, just trying to work through the contractions. So anyway, I'm in the tub, and all of a sudden, I felt like I have to push. So I think it was 3 big pushes, and the second push got her head out, but her shoulders were still in, and everyone was laughing. Of course, I couldn't see it, and I was just trying to get her out at that point, waiting for my next contraction to get her out. But she was just twisting, doing flips in the water, like just, anyway, crazy little girl. The midwives did everything very, very gently. They didn't want me to have bleeding at all. I mean, you're going to have some, but like very minimal bleeding. Normal levels of bleeding were going to be too high for what they were looking at for me because I was already so depleted. They didn't want me to be so weak and so terrible. They also wanted pushing it to be extremely gentle because of my prolapse. Like, they wanted everything to be super, super gentle. So they let me push her all the way out and then brought her up to my chest, and it was so nice because I got to hold her for like 30 minutes because they weren't doing anything with me with the boys. After Timothy, they were massaging me so much that I couldn't hold him through it because it was too painful. And with Samuel, I had such terrible repairs. So I didn't hold them. I held them some, but I didn't hold them for very long. But they just let me sit in the tub with her for 30 minutes and hold her, and it was amazing. They did give me a Pitocin shot right away as soon as she was born to help with bleeding. And she was so healthy and strong and big, 8 pounds 2 ounces, even though she was so early, which I guess 38 weeks and 6 days isn't terribly early. It was because she was born at 1:59 a.m. So it was actually the 30th that she was born, not the 29th. And so I got to hold her. We played her song, which I will put a link to in the iTunes store down here. It's called Lily's Song, or this, I think it might just be Lily, but my husband and I sang that to her as it was playing, and it was so nice just to enjoy that time. And they let the cord stop pulsing and then cut the cord. I think my husband cut it. I was going to try to cut it, but because of the glove and everything, I wasn't really able to do that, but that was okay. Then my husband took her and did skin to skin with her for a little while I delivered the placenta. They were very careful with everything. They let me stay in the tub as long as I needed to, And I was scared to get out because at this point, after my other 2 deliveries, I felt like I'd been hit by a train and I was just terrified. So I got out, they moved me to the bed, did all the after stuff. I hardly tore at all. It was just an amazing, like, it was crazy. I didn't feel like I had just had a baby. So we got all of the vitals done on Lily and got her to try and nurse. She didn't really know how to suck at first, which they said is kind of normal for babies born a little bit early, so it wasn't something to worry about. But like, I went to the bathroom, I walked across the room almost by myself. Like, I did not feel like I had just had a baby at all. Not at all. I felt pretty good. And so we were able to go home fairly shortly after that. See, I think we got to the birth center at 7:30 at night and we were home by 5:30 the next morning. So when the boys woke up, their little sister was here. And so that was a lot of fun. And then the next day, the midwives came and did another appointment for me and the baby here at our house, which was really nice. And overall, it was just an amazing experience. Lily is such a chill baby. We're used to screamers. Both of the boys were screamers, especially Samuel. Timothy was too, but not, he didn't have all the medical stuff going on that Samuel did. And she sleeps. Like, I always couldn't imagine having to wake a newborn to eat. But we had to with her the first few days. We still do some. But she sleeps really well. We just got to get her to where she'll sleep down without someone holding her. That's been a problem. So that's been a little bit exhausting because there's always one of us up with her, but we're moving toward that direction really well. And yeah, she's just been growing well. Nursing has been going really well. I struggled so much with that with both of the boys, but it's going well with her. We've got great lactation support, which has been amazing. And it's just been, the labor and delivery and everything has just been such a wonderful, wonderful experience. The recovery's been a little frustrating because I feel so good. I've never felt this good after having a baby before, but because I have so many other issues and because I'm recovering from severe dehydration and all of the stuff with HG, my recovery is still slower than I would like it to be. And it will still be slower, even though I feel great. For example, I still can't carry Lily around the house. I can't wear her in a pack yet. And that's frustrating because I really want to do those things, but I'll get there. And like I said, I have a great team that I'm working with. I've already got a physical therapist. It's a little early to be working with her, but yeah, I think it will be good. And Lily is here, and she was worth every little bit of sickness and all the frustration, and I'm just so glad she's here and so thankful that we got to meet her early. And I was so concerned about having her early and if she would be ready and safe, and she's so healthy and strong, and I'm so thankful. So that is it. That is the big news, and hopefully I will be getting more videos up here. I'm aiming for once a week, and then I'll slowly build back up to twice a week and maybe more, we'll see. But I just wanted you to meet Lily and hear the story of how she got here. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comments below or any videos that you would like to see coming up. And I look forward to vlogging now as a mommy of 3. It's so exciting. And I hope that you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.